There exists a degree of psychological and physiological power that renders you seemingly indestructible. Today you'll uncover how one individual accomplished this 4 centuries ago and how identical achievement awaits you. Have you ever encountered someone who remains unshattered? Who confronts any circumstance without wavering, without retreating, without compromising with themselves? While others manufacture justifications explaining their personal shortcomings, while others abandon efforts at the initial obstacle, she continues. What do people declare? This individual is fortunate. This woman possesses these qualities solely because of her genetic makeup. This individual only arrived there because he's acquainted with the supervisor. However, what numerous people refuse to acknowledge is that an extremely elevated cost exists. Many refuse to pay that cost, and they still desire to criticize those on the battlefield. Nevertheless, there existed an individual in Japan who lived during the Tokugawa period. This individual conquered over 60 confrontations. He commenced at age 13 and remained undefeated. If you follow this channel, you recognize whom I'm discussing. Perhaps his identity appears in the video's title, so it's no mystery to anyone else. His identity was Miyamoto Musashi, and he wasn't the physically strongest nor the quickest. However, he developed something nobody could shatter, a consciousness that recognized no wavering and a physique that recognized no boundaries. Before his death, he documented everything in his volume, Gorin no Sho, the Book of 5 Rings. Within those pages lies the precise blueprint for how to convert your consciousness and physique into something that people will observe and contemplate. How is that achievable? However, there's a complication. Musashi's methodology isn't regarding inspiration, it's regarding eliminations. He didn't construct power by adding elements. He constructed it by removing everything that was obstructing the path. Before I demonstrate precisely how this framework operates, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment. What's your greatest psychological or physiological weakness that you desire to eliminate? This genuinely assists the channel reaching more people. Additionally, I appreciate reading all the commentary and interacting with you. Thank you tremendously for your attention. Back to the video. Chapter 1. The Awakening, the Narrative. I'm presenting today commences with an individual named Lucas, an engineer, 32 years old, married with 2 children, an ordinary individual, an ordinary existence, ordinary problems. However, Lucas possessed a specific problem. He was weak, not merely physically, mentally too. He awakened every day promising to exercise. He purchased a fitness membership 3 times, canceled all 3. He initiated a diet on Monday and violated it on Wednesday. He promised to awaken early but pressed the snooze button 7 times. The pattern remained consistently identical. Powerful intention, weak execution. That wasn't the only thing that deteriorated. When circumstances grew challenging at work, he'd freeze completely. When he required having a difficult conversation with his wife, he'd postpone it. When his children needed correction and learning about discipline and values, he left it to her to handle. Lucas was living on automatic operation, reacting, never acting, until the day he experienced a panic attack before his boss. During an important meeting, his heart accelerated, his hands perspired, and the room began spinning. He had to leave. He consulted the doctor. Tests were normal. The diagnosis, stress, anxiety, and lack of psychological fitness. The doctor stated something that changed everything. Your body is responding to threats that don't exist because your consciousness isn't trained to distinguish genuine danger from discomfort. You need to train your nervous system. Lucas returned home and began researching how to train the consciousness, how to construct genuine psychological power. That's when he discovered Miyamoto Musashi. More specifically, he discovered that Musashi didn't write a philosophy volume. He wrote a manual of warfare applied to existence. Chapter 2. The Principle of Elimination. The initial thing Lucas read in the Book of 5 Rings was something that seemed contradictory. Have no preferences, do not depend on any particular weapon. He didn't understand initially. How do you become powerful without having a preference? How do you master something without depending on it? Then came Musashi's explanation. Your power cannot depend on perfect conditions. If you can only train when you have equipment, you are weak. If you can only meditate when you are silent, you are weak. If you can only focus when you are rested, you are weak. True power is the ability to perform in any condition. Musashi practiced with wooden swords, metal swords, 2 swords, 1 sword, no sword at all. He fought day and night, in the sun, in the rain, in the cold, in the heat. Why? Because the enemy doesn't wait for you to be ready. Lucas realized he was the opposite of that. He could only be productive at the office. He could only exercise if he'd slept well. He could only eat healthy if his wife prepared the meals. All his discipline depended on external factors. So, he did what Musashi taught. He eliminated dependencies. It started small. Push-up training, no fitness equipment, specific schedule, nothing needed, just body and floor. He chose 20 push-ups every day, anytime, any place, any conditions. The first week was easy. The second week, his body started to ache. The third week, he traveled for work. The fourth week, he contracted the flu. This is where he always surrendered before. But this time he remembered Musashi's principle. Practice must continue regardless of circumstances. Traveling, push-ups in the hotel room. Got a cold, 10 push-ups instead of 20. No energy, 5 push-ups, but never 0. Chapter 3. Heijoshin, the still mind. By day 40, Lucas was doing push-ups automatically, but his consciousness was still chaotic. Anxiety about work, worry about money, fear of disappointing his family. He was getting stronger physically, but mentally he was still fragile. It was then that he encountered the concept that Musashi considered more important than any fighting technique. Heijoshin, the everyday mind, the mind that does not change. Musashi wrote, "At the moment of battle, your consciousness should be exactly the same as your consciousness when you are drinking tea. No excitement, no terror, just presence." How is this achievable? How do you stay calm when someone is attempting to kill you? Musashi's answer was brutal in its simplicity. You train your consciousness not to react. You don't suppress terror. You become someone who doesn't need to react to terror. Lucas began testing this. Every time he felt anxiety rising, in traffic, in a difficult meeting, in an argument with his wife, he did one thing. He took a deep breath and observed the sensation without reacting to it. It sounds simple, but it was torture initially. His body wanted to scream, argue, flee, but he just watched. My heart is racing, my hands are perspiring, my jaw is tense. Just observation, no judgment, no reaction. The first time it worked was in a meeting where his boss started yelling at him before everyone. The old pattern was freezing, sweating, and stuttering. This time, Lucas felt the terror coming on, recognized it, and continued speaking normally. His voice didn't shake, his hands didn't perspire. He responded clearly. The boss was confused. The team was shocked. However, Lucas knew what had happened. He had accessed Heijoshin for the first time, the mind that doesn't move. A Stanford University neuroscientist who has been studying emotional regulation for 18 years explains, when you practice non-reactive observation of difficult emotions, you are literally rewiring your amygdala. Over time, the activation threshold increases. What once triggered panic now triggers only recognition. Chapter 4. Shugyo no Michi, the way of the warrior. However, Musashi knew that a calm consciousness without a capable body is an illusion. You can have perfect emotional control, but if your body can't handle it, you lose. He wrote, "Train hard with wooden swords to strengthen the body. When the body is weak, the consciousness wavers. When the body is strong, the consciousness remains firm." Lucas had been doing push-ups for 60 days. He had gotten stronger, but he hadn't yet tested his body under extreme conditions. Musashi didn't train in comfort. He trained to the limit and then went beyond. So Lucas decided to do something that seemed insane. 100 push-ups daily for 30 days. No matter how long it took, no matter how many breaks he needed, he was going to complete 100 every single day. Day 1 took 45 minutes. Day 5, he could barely lift his arms. Day 10, his wife told him he was overdoing it. Day 15, he did 100 push-ups in 20 minutes. Day 30, he did them in 12 minutes without stopping. However, what changed wasn't just the body. It was the consciousness. When you prove to yourself that you can accomplish something that seemed impossible, you stop negotiating with difficulty. You just do it. Musashi called this Shugyo no Michi, the way of the warrior. It's not regarding talent. It's regarding eliminating the idea that there's something you can't accomplish if you train hard enough. Chapter 5. Zanshin, permanent consciousness. Lucas was physically stronger, mentally calmer. However, Musashi had a third principle that separated ordinary warriors from legends. Zanshin, literally translated, the mind that remains. It doesn't mean being always alert in the sense of tense. It means being always present, always aware, never disconnected. Musashi wrote of warriors who won a duel but let their guard down and were attacked while celebrating. He said, "The battle does not end when the enemy falls. It ends when you are safe." Zanshin is the consciousness that does not relax until everything is truly resolved. Lucas realized he was living the opposite of this. He'd finish a project and immediately relax completely. He'd reach a goal and stop training. He'd solve one problem and ignore the signs of the next. He began practicing Zanshin in real existence. After finishing his push-ups, instead of collapsing on the floor, he would stand for 30 seconds, breathing and being mindful. After a difficult meeting, instead of immediately checking his phone, he would sit for a minute processing what had happened. It seems small, but it changes everything. When you maintain awareness after the action, you integrate the learning. When you immediately tune out, you lose the lessons. Within 90 days, something had completely changed in Lucas. People at work started commenting. "You seem different. You're more present, man. You don't get fazed by anything." His wife was the most direct. "What happened to you? Who? You seem like a different person." And she was right. He was different. Chapter 6. Heijoshin, the mind that does not move. However, the real test came on day 105. Lucas was called into an emergency meeting. The company was making cuts. He was going to be terminated. The old pattern would have sent him into panic mode, heart racing, consciousness spiraling, catastrophic scenarios swirling. However, something different happened. He felt the initial shock. He recognized the sensation and then nothing. His consciousness didn't react. His body didn't go into fight or flight mode. He was simply present with the information. "I see. What's the schedule?" The boss was surprised by the calm. "You have 30 days. Sorry, Lucas." "Okay, thanks for letting me know." Lucas left the room, returned to his desk, and continued working. His colleagues who had been laid off along with him were in panic. They were calling home, crying, paralyzed. Lucas was calm, not because he didn't care, but because he had developed something Musashi called Heijoshin, the still mind, the mind that is unshaken by external circumstances. Musashi wrote, "The tree is quiet, but not because of the absence of wind. It is quiet because its roots are deep." Lucas's roots had grown deep. 105 days of flawless training, 105 days of emotional observation without reaction, 105 days of continuous awareness. When the storm hit, he didn't break because he'd already been tested 1,000 times in training. Over the next 30 days, while everyone else was panicking, Lucas was in action. He updated his resume, activated his network, and went on interviews. By the 23rd day, he had 3 job offers. He chose the best one. He left his old company earning 40% more. The colleagues who panicked, they were still unemployed 3 months later. A sports psychologist who has worked with Olympic athletes for 15 years explains, "The difference between those who perform under pressure and those who collapse isn't talent. It's how much time they spent deliberately exposing themselves to discomfort. Resilience isn't something you have. It's something you build repetition by repetition." Chapter 7. Kyo no Heijo, the strategy of void. However, Musashi had one last principle that was the most difficult to understand and the most powerful to apply. Kyo no Heijo, the strategy of emptiness. He wrote, "In combat, do not intend to win, intend not to lose." It seems the same thing, but it is not. When you fight to win, you create openings. You push, you expose yourself, you risk too much. When you fight not to lose, you remain whole, without gaps, without weakness. Lucas applied this to his new job. Instead of attempting to impress everyone and demonstrate his value immediately, he simply didn't make mistakes. He arrived on time, delivered what he promised, didn't create drama, and didn't make promises he couldn't keep. 3 months later, he was promoted. The boss said, "You're not the brightest on the team, but you're the most reliable, and reliability trumps brilliance." That's Kyo no Heijo. You don't have to be the best. You have to have no weaknesses. Musashi never lost a duel, not because he was stronger or faster. He never lost because he never gave an opening. He studied his opponent, waited for a mistake, and executed. Absolute efficiency, zero waste. Lucas began to apply this to everything. In his diet, he didn't try to eat perfectly. He simply never ate junk food. In his training, he didn't try to break records. He simply never failed a day. In his relationships, he didn't try to be the perfect husband. He simply never broke his word. No weaknesses, no loopholes, no excuses. Chapter 8. Sutemi, letting go of the self. 6 months after beginning his journey, Lucas was unrecognizable, physically stronger, mentally unbreakable, emotionally stable. However, he had one final barrier. He was still afraid, not of external things, but of something internal. Afraid that if he stopped for a day, everything would fall apart. Afraid that all this power was fragile. temporary. That's when he encountered Musashi's ultimate concept, sutemi, abandoning the self. Musashi wrote his final words shortly before he died. I regret nothing. I fear nothing. I desire nothing. How does one get to this level? How do you completely abandon fear? Musashi's answer was the most radical. You stop identifying with the outcome. You are not your successes. You are not your failures. You are simply the continuous practice. Lucas tested this in an extreme way. He stopped counting training days. He stopped celebrating milestones. He stopped posting progress on social media. He removed all external validation. The training continued. The meditation continued. The discipline continued. However, now without ego, without the need for recognition, without the fear of losing what had been built, because he finally understood. You can't lose what you are. You can only lose what you have. If your power depends on maintaining a streak, you'll fear breaking it. If your power is who you've become, nothing can take that away from you. And it was at that exact moment that something frightening happened. People started avoiding Lucas. Not because he was arrogant, not because he was aggressive, but because his presence was uncomfortable. When you eliminate terror, hesitation, and the need for validation, you become a mirror. People look at you and see everything they're not, and that hurts. His co-workers stopped complaining around him. His friends stopped making jokes about fitness facility, ties, and diets. His own family started commenting, "You're getting too serious," because his existence proves that everything they claim is impossible is just uncomfortable. Chapter 9. The Complete Transformation. A year after starting, Lucas was no longer Lucas. Not in the sense that he had changed his personality, but in the sense that he had removed everything that was non-essential. He was no longer someone who attempted to be disciplined. He was someone who couldn't be undisciplined. Practice wasn't something he did, it was who he was. Musashi called this Kenzin Ichinyo, the sword and Zen are one. There is no separation between who you are and what you practice. You don't meditate, you are meditation. You don't train, you are training. People would ask, how do you have so much discipline? The answer was simple. I have no discipline. I've eliminated the parts of me that wanted to surrender. This is what Musashi taught. Psychological and physiological power isn't regarding adding things. It's regarding removing everything that gets in the way of your essential nature. You don't need to motivate yourself to breathe. You don't need to force your heart rate. Why? Because these things are essential to who you are. When training, discipline, and practice become as integrated as breathing, you've reached the frightening level. The level where people look at you and think, that's not human. And the truth? They're right. It's not human in the sense of normal human. It's human in the sense of realized human potential. Miyamoto Musashi died at the age of 62, alone in a cave writing. He had no money, no title, no followers. However, he had something nobody could take away: complete mastery over himself. His last words were, "I regret nothing." How many people can say that? How many people reach the end and know they lived at the limit of their capabilities? How many have eliminated fear, hesitation, weakness? The question is not how did Musashi accomplish it. The question is why aren't you doing it? You have access to the same knowledge. You have the same number of hours in the day. You have the same human body with the same potential. The difference isn't ability. It's willingness to do what's necessary. A willingness to eliminate dependencies. A willingness to practice until practice becomes identity. A willingness to abandon everything that isn't essential. This frightening level of psychological and physiological power isn't for everyone, not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. And most people choose comfort over capability. However, you're not the majority. If you've watched this far, you've already proven that. The question now is, what are you going to do with this information? If you appreciated this video, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like. And tell me in the comments, what's the first dependency you'll eliminate? What's the first weakness you'll transform? Remember, power that frightens others is the only power worth having. If you've made it this far, thank you tremendously for your attention. See you in the next video.